This video is about you. Godot has improved a lot in the past year alone, but at the same time it definitely has a lot of things to improve upon. I have some feature requests that I personally think would improve Godot a lot, but you can be the judge of that. I'll share my ideas in just a moment, but I want this video to be an open invitation to you, the community, to voice out what you want to see improved as we move forward. So what I want to hear from you is what you wish to see added or improved, but rather than umbrella statements like, I want a better physics system or better input mapping. No, get more specific. Those are valid requests, but what exactly is it about those that you want changed? Think about all the little things that annoy you or features that would improve your workflow by a lot. Tiny quality of life improvements to complete overhauls. Anything that's on your mind. Spit it out in a comment. I'd love to hear what you want. If you can't think of anything on the spot, let me share some of my ideas to get the ball rolling, and maybe that'll inspire you to do the same. I really hate how annoying it is to work with multiple related values in the inspector. This mainly comes up when I'm working with control nodes. Stuff like corner radius and border width have 4 properties that you usually want to have the same value, and you have to individually set each value. Making UI involves a lot of trial and error. You never know the exact value you want, so every time you want to test out a new value, this is what it looks like. I think 10 would look good. Too thick, 7 maybe? Still too thick. Yeah, this, but 10 more times, because there's a bunch more properties like this I have to set. Takes up half my life just doing this, and the other half is spent scrubbing the stupid timeline. Blender makes this so nice to work with, where you can just drag up and down to select related properties and change them all at once. It's so straightforward. Another way to deal with this could be to allow control clicking individual properties to select and edit them together, or shift clicking one of them to select all the related properties directly. I personally would love to see all 3 of these solutions implemented. Affinity Designer has this neat feature where you can hover your mouse over any numeric input field and scroll your mouse wheel to increase or decrease it. There's a few reasons I love this. It makes interacting with small values very easy. Take something like the corner radius of a style box. You're usually working with values between 5 and 15, and dragging the input field is too sensitive. Sure, you can hold shift and drag to get the values in between, but even that is a bit too fiddly. It jumps to 30 first even when holding shift, and even then I feel like it needs too much of your attention to be precise. It lets you easily visualize these small value changes. Your attention isn't spent trying to move the slider precisely. It feels really intuitive to use due to the stepped nature of mouse wheel inputs, and I like that you don't need to click at all. That being said, this might make users accidentally change a value instead of scrolling in the inspector, but that's mainly a concern due to the fact that the input fields are so chonky. They really don't need to be this big. A mistake I make really often is writing ready at the start of the line with the intention of creating the ready function, but I always have to go back and write the func keyword first if I want autocomplete to work every single time. Also happens with every other function I want to override, like process or input. It's just a bit of needless friction needing to write func to declare something that already exists. The default virtual methods should just show up in the autocomplete suggestions, and that should take care of that for me. Maybe even take the cursor to the next line automatically when you confirm the suggestion. You always have to press enter twice when you do this, which I hate having to do. GDScript is meant to help you write code fast, so this suggestion is in line with enhancing what it's best at. Just to be clear, I don't want to remove the func keyword completely, I just want autocomplete to take care of it for me. The next one is the feature that I'm most passionate about. If I had to pick one feature out of this list, it's going to be this one. No competition. Blender has completely revolutionized the way I look at creative software. It's easily the best UX I've seen in any software that I've used, and honestly, Blender kind of ruined my life because every other software feels like a pain to use now. There's many of its features that I wish other softwares had, but specifically I cannot stand not having the G, S and R shortcuts. Clicking and dragging is inefficient and clunky. I already hear you saying that they do exist in Godot, but hold that thought. First, let me explain why I think these shortcuts are so good. You can achieve precision without having to be precise. Here's something that pisses me off when I'm editing these videos. In DaVinci Resolve, I often want to select a bunch of elements and move them somewhere else while I'm zoomed out as far as the stratosphere. Clicking and dragging just straight up doesn't work sometimes. A solid 35% of the time I accidentally click on the inputs or click in the tiniest crack between the nodes, and then I have to select all of them again to try again. And before you call this a skill issue and tell me that I can't aim, first of all, how dare you accuse me of... Bro, where am I? Where am I? Oh, wrong clip.
I did good with last game.
Yeah, you're just wrong, sorry, them's the facts. But hypothetically, let's say someone did have horrible aim, then they can just press G, it just works. you spend zero time fiddling with anything. This is even more of an annoyance with keyframes. Look at them. I don't want to spend effort aiming at that tiny spot, even though I'm perfectly capable. I can just press G. Another neat thing you can do with this in Blender is hold the middle mouse button while you do this, which lets you select which axis you want the transformation to happen in. You have no clue how good this is. If I want to move this cube to the right on the x-axis, boom, I'm done already. I can start moving my mouse to the right before doing anything, press G during that movement, tap middle mouse button to snap to that axis, and since I'm already moving my mouse to the right, it knows what axis I want, and I just click to confirm. All in one single motion, which is the important part. It cannot get more intuitive than this. It just works. Once you have the muscle memory logged in, you can make these transformations in a fraction of the time you could with clicking and dragging or using gizmos. The real strength of this system shines through when it's available everywhere, not just isolated in one part of the software like it currently is in Godot. The muscle memory is key. In Blender, whenever you think of moving anything, you just press G in any window. 3D view, 2D view, timeline, graph editor, node editor, it just works. You're done with moving it before you've even thunk your thought of moving it. And don't even get me started on how intuitive it is to rotate and scale curves and keyframes when animating, instead of clicking and dragging the stupid handles all the time. I probably sound like a crazy person talking about clicking and dragging as if it's the hardest thing in the world. But if you've used Blender before, I hope you agree. I don't care if you ignore all my other call to actions like me asking you to subscribe right now, but please convince more people that we need this in Godot. And if you haven't done it yet, please have a go at writing down a comment about what you want to see improved in Godot. I'd love to get discussions going in the comments. If you'd like to support the work that I do, I just set up a Patreon. So far I'm planning on sharing some insights on my animation process for these videos, but I'm looking forward to bringing more benefits soon. If that sounds interesting, check it out. Anyways, moving on. Pie menus are great. Blender has a really nice implementation of them. I really like the one for switching views in 3D. If you want to view the left side of your scene, you just hold the shortcut key, move your mouse to the left, and let go of the shortcut. Guess what? It just works. Blender uses pie menus in a lot of different places, and again, when the muscle memory clicks in, it's so nice to work with. The fact that Godot has documentation available in the editor is really convenient, but I've always found it really annoying to search for what I'm looking for a lot of times. I'm talking about using Ctrl F to search for a keyword within the page. Whenever the term I'm searching for appears a lot of times in the same page, Ctrl F just tells me that there's a bunch of matches in the page, which is not helpful at all. I think this feature can use a fresh coat of simple UX improvements to make it a lot more helpful. Here's what I'm proposing. First, it should show you the current number of the highlighted match, so that you have an idea of your progress while you're clicking through. And then, I want all occurrences of the search term to be highlighted, not just one of them. This will let me quickly skim through the page myself to see all the relevant matches, instead of having to go through each one at a time. I'll call these secondary matches. They can be highlighted with a slightly different color than the primary match. The arrows here should make the next match the primary match, as usual. I should be able to click on any secondary match to promote it to be the primary match, so that I can use the arrows again if I want to continue jumping from that point. A lot of times I'll have a search term right in front of me, and I just want to look for other occurrences of that term. When I try to search for it, it pulls me all the way up to the first match it finds, which I find really annoying. So instead of making the first match the primary match, it should look for the closest match where the user is currently scrolled at. The progress number would help with showing which match this is. To further aid with this, selecting any text and then pressing Ctrl F should automatically search for that text. I don't want to type it in. These changes would make the content of the docs a lot more accessible than they already are. Speaking of making things more accessible, the sponsor of this video makes picking up new skills really accessible. Skillshare is an online learning community that hosts thousands of carefully curated classes led by industry experts. The best thing about it is that it has classes related to almost any subject that you can think of. Whether it's art, animation, writing, video editing, whatever you can think of. There's probably a class for it on Skillshare. So whatever skill you're putting off learning, Skillshare can help you kickstart that journey. It also has classes that can help you take your skills to the next level even if you already have experience with the skill. The platform is designed to fit into your busy schedule, so you can learn at your own pace and access the classes from anywhere thanks to the mobile app, which lets you access all of the same classes right from your fingertips. The first 500 people to use the link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So even if you work for a skill for just a single hour a day, that's 30 hours of free classes. So, what are you waiting for? Join Skillshare now and start learning. Anyways, back to the video. I cannot believe that I haven't found a single other person that has complained about the UI for editing curve resources. Just look at it. I need a microscope if I want to work with it. No, I don't want to make my whole inspector window bigger just to edit it. Every single aspect of interacting with it is painful. You can't zoom into the graph. You can't even select, let alone manipulate multiple keyframes at once. You can't resize the handles. I can kind of break the handle, but adjusting it just resets it. And what is this? I lost the handle and I can't get it back until I move the whole keyframe up. How has no one else complained about this? Am I the crazy one? But credit where it's due. It's somehow worse than DaVinci Resolve's edit page graph view. Every time I edit, I look at this and I wonder how they made the worst UX design in the history of software development and thought to themselves, yeah, this belongs in a professional editing software. And the curve editor somehow manages to be even worse. Hats off, Godot. I don't even have a hat, but I know it's off for sure. The thing that pisses me off the most is the fact that this is a solved problem. We have a graph editor in Godot already, which is horrendous in its own right, but it still leagues ahead of this hot garbage. Just give me a button here that'll take me to the animation tab and let me edit the curve there. Is that too much to ask for? Fortunately, I found a workaround to be able to use the animation editor to edit curves and use them in code, so I'm never touching the curve resource again until they change it. Moving on, imagine being able to freely drag a new section of the inspector and pin it, allowing you to inspect multiple nodes at once. It's going to be so convenient to edit or view more than one node at once. On a side note, I wish the editor UI was a bit more flexible, especially these options here. I hate them being options. Just look at how simple it is in Blender. You just drag a new window where you want and get rid of ones that you don't need by dragging over them. It just works. I wish we could have that just for the viewport at least, even if it's not for all of the UI like Blender. And also I see no reason for this to just be a feature in the 3D viewport. The 2D viewport can benefit from it too. We already have the ability to split off the script panel into its own floating window, but I personally don't find it very useful at all. Now what would be useful to me is to be able to split off multiple windows so that you can see more than one script at once. Implementing this would also have the additional benefit of being able to look at multiple docs pages at once. Also, middle mouse clicking on a link in the documentation should open it in a new window. Now, quite possibly the coolest feature of them all. FL Studio lets you use your mouse wheel on pop-up menus, and it feels so nice to use. I really like how it moves your cursor automatically, and it even wraps around. Just look at this. Is it a necessity? Absolutely not. But do I desperately want it? Yeah. And also in general, FL Studio is probably the second best UX I've seen after Blender, and it just feels really nice to use the program. Look at all these cool animations everywhere. I haven't even used FL too much, only messed around with it years ago, but I do remember that I did not despise using it, which seems to be very rare for software these days apparently. In fact, I really enjoyed interacting with it, so I'm sure there's a lot Godot can take from it. Now comes the most important part. If any of these changes that I've brought up resonate with you, down below in the description, I've listed all of the relevant GitHub discussions that I've created and some that I've found that other people have made. Go and upvote the features that you'd like to see, and maybe even add your own thoughts. This is the best way for us as a community to contribute to making the engine even better than it already is. And again, if you haven't left a comment about your own feature requests, please do. And also have a look at what other people are suggesting and reply with your own thoughts. It would help with my channel's engagement, but it would also help start discussions on what everyone wants. If there are any suggestions that everyone likes, we could work towards creating requests for those on GitHub. Godot 4.4 has brought a lot of improvements. Everyone talks about the big and flashy features, but I'm sure most of the small but really meaningful changes have gone under your radar. Check out this video on the left to see what those are. Or if you're looking forward to finally understanding how UI and control nodes work, check out my control node masterclass on the right. Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.